Hey YouTube, this is Corlash1990, and today I have my first deck tech video for the Sorcery TCG. And I haven't had a whole lot of games, but the whole point of this is I built two decks, one with Pathfinder and one with my personal favorite, the Death Speaker. And I'm going to kind of keep these videos as like a video log of me getting more games under my belt and kind of tweaking these decks, maybe changing the themes in them, or even just changing the elements that they're based on. And both of them are based off of different elements. So this one's a water fire deck, and my other one is a air earth deck. And they were both different avatars in what you get in the starter decks, and I really liked both of them. In fact, I didn't know this one was a unique avatar, so it's kind of hard to get this one. And this one's a lot of fun to play. I've played about 5 games with these. I have made some tweaks already. And in these videos, I will do some honorable mentions or even a different way to build these decks. And this stack is for this avatar right here. So I'll go over Pathfinder. And Pathfinder is standard, the 20 health, 1 power. You don't you can't have duplicate cards in your Atlas deck. So the whole deck, these are all one of. So treat everything like it's unique. And you don't draw any sights at the start of the game. So you only have a 3-card hand. You don't have 3 sights in your hand. But what's cool about Pathfinder is that it can tap and then, if able, play the topmost sight of your Atlas to an adjacent location and then move. So instead of like tapping to then play a location or play a location and then later tapping to move, this card just taps. Let's just say this is already out. This taps, puts one here, and then moves. So Pathfinder is literally pathfinding your way all the way across the field, and it's really cool. It feels like they're just like skipping along, creating your presence, and then you play these huge, crazy monsters. And this is basically a burn deck for the most part. There's a lot of burn spells in here. So that's Pathfinder. Very cool, very flavorful, amazing artwork. I really do like the artwork on this one quite a bit. So let's go over the Atlas deck. I have Oasis. It was one of the few dual lands that I got that provide threshold for both. I unfortunately did not get the one for my other deck. That's fine though. So this is obviously a must. And then I am playing Crossroads. So essentially it has Genesis, which means when you play it or when it comes into play, you look at the top 4 sites of your Atlas and you put 3 of them on the bottom. So you kind of fix which one you're going to get next, which is really good with Pathfinder because you can't play duplicates. So it's really hit or miss on what sites you get. And for that exact reason, most of our sites in this deck are going to have threshold values. This one doesn't, but it is very well worth it. Next is Standing Stones. Basically, all your minions here, let me get it more centered. All your minions that are here are spellcasters, which is really important because we have a lot of spells. So you want a greater range of where to cast things. We also have a lot of spellcasters in the deck as well. And then here's more. This is all of the water sites, and then after this will be the fire sites. So for the most part, it's just every water site that we have available to us through the starter decks and the booster set. I will say these decks were made with 2 bricks of starter decks and 1 booster box. So this is a very limited card pool, but also it's not really all that limited. I got play sets of like most of the commons and uncommons, and I got a lot of elites and like doubles of elites. Hence why I bought doubles of the starter decks, was to get doubles of the elites that came in them because they seemed pretty playable. Like diluvian horror, for instance, is or diluvian kraken, whatever the heck it is. Very cool card. Maelstrom basically drags things to it that are in the same body of water as it. Yeah, it just drags things to it, kind of like what a maelstrom does. Tadpol pool is super cool. If you have 3 water, when it comes in, you can create 3 submerged frog tokens. It's not going to happen every time because it's really hard to fix this, and it's just very random. But when it does happen, it's pretty cool. This big island, if we have a lot of our island resources, which we do have enough to pull it off, it can turn into a big creature. And then floodplain, man, I love the artwork on floodplain. But once on your turn, you may flood an adjacent site, so making more things water. This cool one, man, everything in this game is great artwork, so I'm not going to keep repeating myself. But basically, when this when you play it, starting with this body of water, move target unit 1 step. An iceberg does what you think an iceberg would do. Things occupying nearby sites can't submerge or surface because the water is all frozen. And then we have the, if my phone would focus, there we go. We have the rivers. I don't have the winter river. I have a foil one, but not a non-foil. And I am playing with clear sleeves because I like the artwork. And if you don't know, the foils in this game, the backs do not have a normal card back. It is a full art version of the artwork with no text. So you can't play them with clear sleeves. And I want to play this game with clear sleeves because I really do like the card backs in this game. Yeah, essentially you get to look at the top card of your spell deck and put it on the bottom of the top. That's what that does. And that is what that does. And now for the remaining sites, which are all fire sites. River of Flame is cool. It acts as a spellcaster, so you can cast spells from it, which is important for us. The Vesuvius, which can sacrifice itself, and then each unit occupying nearby sites takes 3 damage, so it's like a little bomb or a volcano. Mirage is kind of interesting. I haven't actually needed to do this, but yeah, when it's played, you may return a site in play to your hand and then play this where it was. I'm not quite sure how that works with him because it says adjacent. So I don't think that actually triggers his ability, but if it's nearby or something else nearby, you can pop it and then move it, and then he can move there. And then if the land has a Genesis ability, you can trigger it again. Dwarven Forge, we do have some weapons in here. I want to play some other ones, but I didn't open enough of them, mainly the fire sword, so I'm running this ballista card that came in the starter decks. But basically makes weapons cost 1 less if you play them there. And then Shifting Sands, Genesis, trigger the Genesis ability of each allied desert nearby. That is much better when you can play multiple copies of them, but since we can only play single copies, its abilities are a little limited, but still very good. And then all 3 of these deserts all do the same thing. They'll do Genesis, deal 1 damage to each minion atop target nearby site. Yes, and yes. And that is our Atlas deck. Now we're going to go into the actual like meat and potatoes of the deck. And again, it's a water fire deck, so I'm going to I'll just go through just like this. No, I'll separate the minions from the non-minions. So, for the minions, I was lucky enough to get a great old one. This card's insane, and it will probably win you the game when you play it because it has 16 power. It has Submerge, and it has Genesis. You flood the entire realm, even including voids. Everything is just water and flooded. That card's insane. That card's super cool. It's unique, so only 1 copy. Typically, cards that I have the copies of, that is more or less the amount that I can play them, you know, give or take a couple cards here. Next is the diluvian kraken. I don't know why I have such a hard time saying that. Same cost, a lot less power. Has Submerge, but you can tap it, surface, and attacks everything nearby it, so it can attack multiple things or strikes them. Very cool. I really like the Unlaid Angler, Unland Angler. Super cool looking. 5 for 4 power, Submerge. At the start of your turn, if the angler is submerged, force each enemy minion atop adjacent sites to take 1 step towards this one, and then you can, you know, kind of attack it and stuff. There's a lot of movement shenanigans with this deck. That was kind of the theme I had going on top of just burn. The idea with this deck is you want to create your presence. You want to create a lot of outlets where you can just machine gun spells, and you want to kill your opponent's avatar with spells or with your big endgame creatures, and this deck has quite a few of them. Next, I have 3 copies of Fenvale Muse. So 1 cost is 0 power, but it's a spellcaster, and whenever it casts a spell, you may trigger the Genesis ability of a nearby river, so more card fixing. Seems pretty synergistic with the deck. Now for the red minions. I play the Cerberus and Chains. Basically, you play it where your avatar is, and it will always move with your avatar, which is pretty good because our avatar is going to be moving like crazy. It's literally going to be skipping everywhere. And there's another really cool way you can build this deck. Again, it's in the other cards I have, and I'll show off the little synergies with it that I thought were pretty neat. Then we play 2 copies of Ancient Dragon. This is a very good endgamer. Airborne, it can tap to do 4 damage to each other unit at a location nearby. Pretty good. Units count for avatars, by the way, so just keep that in mind. Play 3 Cauldron Crones. It's a red spellcaster with Genesis. You can sacrifice another minion here to draw a spell. So if you do need that draw spell, or like sacrificing these guys, I think Deathrite triggers that. If it doesn't, correct me. You can like kind of kamikaze, like blow up everything. But yeah, I play these Sacred Scarabs. They're great. 2 cost, 1 attack, airborne, which is good. They have Deathrite, which is when they die. Deal 3 damage to each unit here, so they kind of explode whatever kills them. Very cool. Very good card. So that is all of the units. Not really, or minions. Not a whole lot, but, you know, enough. Let's kind of move these out of the way. There we go. Next is my weapons. So I'm obviously playing Spear of Destiny. It costs 5, though if we have our site, it could cost 4. Pretty cool. The bearer gains tap. Throws Spear of Destiny at any minion anywhere. It teleports to that minion and kills it. So it's just a good guarantee you're going to kill something. And instead of the flame swords that I didn't get enough of, I'm running 3 of the siege ballista. Cost 3, or it could cost 2. You tap a bear and another ally here to do 3 damage to a unit up to 2 steps away. So again, treat this like a continuous burn spell that you could potentially use. It takes 2 minions to tap it, which is kind of rough, but it's still just a nice little backup plan. And now this is all of our removal and burn and everything else. So I play 2 Major Explosion, cost 7, has a threshold of 2. Target a location up to 2 steps away. Do all that damage there on that grid to everything there. Pretty sweet. Next, I play 4 copies of Minor Explosion, cost 3, threshold of 2. Deal 3 damage to each unit at target location up to 2 steps away. Again, just more burn, ranged burn. It's all very good. I really like Heat Ray. Cost 3, threshold of 1. Shoot a piercing projectile, so in a cardinal direction, you know, front or side, and deal 2 damage to 1 unit at each location along its path. That could do a lot of damage, but typically I am just shooting someone's avatar with it. So that is the fire cards. Move these out of the way. Next is the water cards. Wrath of the Sea, very cool. Cost 7, 2 threshold. Flood all sites adjacent to a body of water, which there's a lot of water sites here. Then submerge all minions and artifacts on water. So basically anything that doesn't have submerge is just going to die. Play 2 drown, submerge target minion or artifact if able. So if they're at a water site, you drown them and kill them if they don't have submerge. Basically punishing your opponent for coming onto your turf, more or less. Or when you flood the whole board, this can just kill anything anywhere. And then finally, to finish the deck off, which is a 40-card deck, 20-card Atlas deck. Those are the minimums. I think you can play more, but I like playing minimums for consistency. To end the deck off, I have 4 Ice Lance, kind of similar to Heat Ray. Cost 3, 1 threshold. Shoot a piercing projectile, deal 3 damage, then 2 damage, and then 1 damage to up to 1 unit at each of the first 3 locations along its path. So it gets strong and it gets weaker as it progresses. Very cool, very flavorful, very thematic. It's kind of just the name of this game, honestly. They really focus on theme really more than just like balance and anything else, which I think is incredibly fun. Their way of balancing things is making things rare that are better, less frequent in your deck. I'm not really sure if that's like the greatest mechanic, but with how this game is made and designed, I think it fits perfectly. So that is my Fire Water Pathfinder deck, and this deck is a lot of fun. So far, my decks are going back and forth on what's winning and what's losing. Another route that I almost went, but I didn't because it shares a type with my other deck, is basically you can have Pathfinder skipping along your opponent's borders, playing your locations in front of theirs, and then playing Border Militia to put a foot soldier token at each site you control that borders an enemy site. So you could get a lot of creatures into play, like a lot of minions into play. I think that's probably the best way to build Pathfinder, but for now I'm going to just keep it with this, this burn theme and this playing, spellcasters everywhere. But then you play a bunch of cards that buff up all your, nearby allies and minions. Sorry, I had a phone call. Of course, someone's trying to call me when I am recording my video. But anyway, play a bunch of dudes that buff up all your little dudes, make your little dudes really threatening, and then you just kind of go aggro on them. And this is basically a creature token based deck that has some ways to draw sites so you can get extra sites out if you can't, because there are situations where your avatar can't move because the board's all full or they're kind of cornered. So it's nice to just have some other resources to allow your avatar to, move manually back to open ground and then start going crazy again. And then Midland Army is also really good for this. The Death Right, basically when it dies, you summon a foot soldier to each adjacent location. And then these 3 locations in particular are really good with Pathfinder. Genesis, you can pay 1 to summon a foot soldier here. So you can get kind of double tokens with this and these. Also, most of this is starter deck stuff or ordinary kind of stuff. They're all relatively easy to get. The only hard card to get apparently is, Pathfinder, but when beta comes out and singles are more readily available, that'll be a little easier to accomplish. There's a little side idea I have going on for this deck though, and eventually I will test that out. But yeah, these are like some honorable mentions. As I said, I will do that with my other deck. But anyway, that is my Pathfinder deck tech. I hope you all enjoy and find this useful. I know there's not a whole lot of content out for this game because, it's brand new, especially for people, who are just now getting their Kickstarter stuff. So I would like to, again, kind of catalog these decks and show the growth and development of them as the game grows and develops and as I get used to the game and how it plays and everything else. So thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I noticed I got a few more subscribers that are probably here for this game, so I appreciate it. Thank you. And for everyone else that's here for the dead card game stuff, that will still be here. I will be covering this game a lot, though, because it really does remind me of dead card games. It gives me just that vibe of card games in the 90s, so hopefully you all find this enjoyable, and maybe once it gets cheaper and readily available, try it out yourselves. And I appreciate all of you as well. So anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.